I wanted to talk today about possessiveness in relationships. It's kind of a major topic in all forms of relationships, possessiveness. And what is it about the human condition that makes us possessive? And why is this something that we do? Why is it that we feel the need to possess others or possess material things? We want to possess material things for sure, because we live in an external world where it seems like we need to have material things to survive. We seem to need to have food. We seem to need to have clothes. We seem to need to have money. And, well, that might be that seems to be a very real thing for the human condition, right? And I want to specifically talk, though, about possessiveness in relationships. Why do we become possessive of others? Now, I talk about miracles on this channel, so I'm going to relate this very intense, heated topic to the teachings of A Course in Miracles. And A Course in Miracles is a spiritual text that has 365 workbook lessons, meditation lessons that focus on inner peace. It's not a religion, it's not dogma, it's not a cult. It's profound channeled material that has helped so many people, including myself, heal. And A Course in Miracles spends 9 chapters on something called special relationships. And that's not in a good way, okay? It's not in a good way. We've all been taught to believe that there's special people in our lives, that there's certain people that are set aside for us, whether it's family or friends or particularly romantic relationships, children that are special. And they have a special place in our lives. There's a special exchange going on with these relationships. There's a special set of rules and circumstances and expectations that go into these relationships. And it also involves a level of indifference to everyone else. So there's special people over here, and the rest of the world we're pretty much indifferent to. Isn't that true? But special relationships are not of God. That's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us, that these types of relationships are not of God. They're not loving. Even though that might seem crazy to think that, well, what do you mean? You're saying I don't love my children, I don't love my husband, I don't love my family? Well, all relationships on planet Earth are special. Until we learn to bring them to a higher power, a higher calling, until we are able to heal in our minds the idea of relationships, all relationships are special. So it's not that you're not loving, that you don't love. The real you is loving. The real spirit that you're made of is loving. But you're made to love everything equally, like God does. You're made to recognize and emulate and operate from a place of love, a united love. That's what Jesus was demonstrating. So holding out special people in our lives, that's not of God, because the human condition makes them, it's a way to replace the love of God. Human relationships are designed, they were invented by the ego, okay? And they're designed to replace God's love. Now, that doesn't mean that God doesn't use our relationships. He does, absolutely uses our relationships if we hand them over to Him. If we hand the purpose of all of our relationships to God, then indeed God will take these relationships and change the purpose of them for healing. But we can all take a look closely at our lives and the relationships that we've had, and we can think about the problems and issues and trauma and abuse and often nightmarish situations that relationships have seemed to present to us in our lives. Whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's work situations, but also most especially romantic partners, right? It's not natural to be possessive. It's not natural to replace the love of God with relationships, with human relationships. That doesn't mean we don't have relationships anymore, but as I said, we have to change the purpose of it, which is healing. And the only way we can do that is through the help of God, the Holy Spirit, or some sort of spiritual practice. And possessiveness, though, is probably the number one thing that can happen in regards to relationships. We become possessive of others, believing that we own them, we own their bodies, we're entitled to some sort of exchange, some sort of relationship, some sort of access to them, some sort of promise, or that they're supposed to stay with us forever, or stay in a certain form of relationship with us forever, or that they owe us something, or we owe them something. See, now this is very, very damaging and very dangerous. No one is entitled to anything. No one has the right to possess anyone. But because of the human condition, the human mind, and the typical human relationship, which is specialness, according to A Course in Miracles, it ensues a level of insanity where we can become obsessed with others. Our current culture of social media has been a breeding ground for perpetuating stalking and obsessing and watching others. I mean, in the old days, before social media, if you, say, you broke up with someone, or someone broke up with you, say in a romantic situation, most likely you wouldn't have to see them again unless you ran into them or whatever. But nowadays, it's not like that. And I don't mean just in romantic relationships, but all forms of relationships, from years ago, decades ago, you can see what's going on with them on social media. So it's a breeding ground for triggering these really, really unloving, dark behaviors that also can be done in secret. Recently, I did a video about how stalking and watching others on social media is a call for help. It's a call to go within. And so I'll put a link to that in the description section. But possessiveness is something we all have to be aware of. I have to be aware of that. I'm married and I'm on a spiritual journey, and my husband with me. And this is something that we have to face. We have to be aware when these feelings come up, especially in a world that actually perpetuates possessiveness, particularly in marriage. The truth of the matter is that we don't possess anything, really. God did not make you to be possessive of someone. And I certainly have had to learn that myself many times. And if we're becoming obsessive and possessive, that we've forgotten all about God. We're trying to fill an emptiness, a belief in an emptiness that we seem to have in our spirits, our souls, our emotions, that we think is going to be filled up by someone or something. Now, relationships are meant to bring us joy, but only if they are for the purposes of God, which are the purposes of love and peace and joy. And if they're used for any other purpose, it's a roadway to hell. We've all been there. We've all been in those situations. I know I have. When I was younger and I didn't understand these things like I do now. But I'm telling you that possessiveness is something that has to be given over to God. If we find ourselves being possessive, which leads to control, which leads to manipulation, we need healing. Because we can see what happens in the world when people become obsessive and possessive of one another. This happens in families, friendships, romantic partners, children. This is insanity. But the only way out of it is to turn ourselves to a loving presence, to turn ourselves over to God, whatever that means to you. Turn yourself over to the loving presence in your mind that's there. And ask for help, ask for guidance. Hand any feelings of possessiveness over. You cannot possess anyone or control anyone, nor do you have the right. So I want to share more in other videos about this idea of possessiveness and how A Course in Miracles really boils it down to a call for love, a call for help from God. And it's a call to go within and ask for healing and let go of possessing anything or anyone.